Hey, I'm Creech and this is Creech and Cars. Today, we're going to be taking an early look at McLaren's all-new upcoming Super SUV. By now, SUVs have completely taken over the mainstream and luxury car markets, and over the past few years, they've even been creeping into the supercar segment. For better or worse, the Urus and DBX are now the best-selling models for their respective brands, proving it to be a wise decision, at least for now, for supercar companies to add an SUV to their lineups. Now, it seems that McLaren will be the latest supercar maker to bring a super SUV to market. In this video, I'll take you on a tour through the potential exterior and interior design of the McLaren SUV, as well as the features and performance specs. Finally, I'll discuss the pricing and release details and give my thoughts on whether or not McLaren has what it takes to take on the Urus, Purosangue, and DBX 707. McLaren hasn't given out many details on what the new SUV will look like, but we do have some renderings that show what this new model could look like. Let's start up front where McLaren's signature headlight design can be seen, and I think it works surprisingly well here. I don't think the other super SUVs are particularly ugly, but I feel like none of them are as instantly recognizable as being from the brand they are as these renderings for a McLaren SUV. The headlights and fascia design are nearly identical to any of McLaren's proper supercars, but it doesn't look super awkward or weird or anything once it's been stretched to the SUV proportions. The body lines are generally smooth and rounded, fitting in with the design language of the rest of the McLaren lineup. This design shows one main belt line running the length of the side profile. Here's another take where it has more of the Purosangue's flowing look to it. The roofline slips back fairly aggressively to a nice roof-mounted spoiler, and the rest of the rear is still recognizable as a McLaren with its clean, rounded design. The oval-shaped taillights have a thin LED light bar. The bumper and diffuser are accented in a gloss black color, and the diffuser especially makes the car look much sportier and sets it apart as a super SUV, making it stand out more on the open road, where it seems like in the future, supercars will have the same body style as everything else on the road. So they will need design features like this to help them stand out. As for the interior, it's hard to see right now what exactly McLaren will do, except that you can expect it to still look and feel like a McLaren. As with the exterior, although it will likely be a bit more geared towards everyday driving, like what we've seen Ferrari and Lamborghini do with their SUVs. I think the SUV's interior will most closely resemble the interior of the McLaren GTS. This is a proper GT car, as the name suggests, and this is obvious when you look at the bucket seats, which are still very sporty, but quite plush by McLaren standards. There are some really nice interior color options, and all of them mesh well with the luxurious aluminum trim and speaker covers. The dashboard has a simple, clean design that is centered around a vertical infotainment screen and digital gauge cluster. The SUV should have a very similar design to its dashboard and use essentially the same steering wheel, gear selector, and climate controls, and all the things like that. Unlike the GTS, however, this new SUV will have back seats. It should have the option for either a rear bench or rear captain's chairs with sort of a 2+2 layout, which I personally think fits this type of SUV much better than the bench. Here you can see both of them side by side in the Urus. The ever important factor with this kind of vehicle is of course performance, so let's get into what powertrain and power output McLaren will give this new SUV. While initial rumors speculated that this would be McLaren's first electric vehicle, that doesn't seem to be the case right now. What seems pretty certain at this time is that the SUV will use a hybrid powertrain. McLaren's new CEO says this powertrain would ideally be one that was made in-house by McLaren, which means the SUV could share a powertrain with the Artura. The Artura makes use of a twin-turbo 3.0-liter V6 paired with one AC motor that combined to produce 671 horsepower and 531 pound-feet of torque. It gets about 18 miles per gallon with just 11 miles of pure EV range. For the Artura, which would be much lighter than an SUV of course, this setup delivers a solid 0 to 60 time of 2.6 seconds. However, this isn't the only possibility. McLaren has been developing a V8 hybrid powertrain for its upcoming flagship and P1 successor. This combo of a V8 of unknown displacement and power, combined with likely again one AC motor, can produce up to 1,000 horsepower, which may be necessary for a flagship, but that could be toned down a bit for the SUV. McLaren could also make use of both of these setups and just have the V8 as a desirable but costly option. The new Urus SE uses a twin-turbo V8 and an electric motor that totals 789 horsepower, and that allows for a 0 to 60 time of about 3.4 seconds. So the highest performance version of McLaren's SUV could have similar numbers. This SUV is still at least a couple of years out, especially because it hasn't even been officially revealed yet, but we do know that McLaren executives want their SUV to compete with the Cullinan and Purosangue more so than the Urus and Bentayga. This would put the McLaren SUV in the range of the upper 300s, probably close to $400,000. So now that we have all of this information, is McLaren making the right move here by bringing an SUV to market? First of all, McLaren doesn't want to call this new model an SUV, but in recognizing the size of the market for this type of car, they are going forward with plans to build what they call a shared performance vehicle, or SPV. I suppose this is a way of saying the vehicle is not a real McLaren, but it does share in the McLaren performance. This doesn't make much sense to me, especially when Ferrari, Lamborghini, and Aston Martin haven't danced around the term that much. They certainly don't push the idea that it's an SUV, but they didn't make up their own thing just to avoid calling it an SUV. Also, those brands have a much longer and greater history behind them than McLaren, so it's not like McLaren is really destroying all that much by just calling it what it is. And at this point, McLaren needs to accept this change as it is, and just adapt the business model to be able to meet the needs of the current market. The reason they need to do this is because McLaren is bleeding money to the tune of a loss of about $500,000 per car sold. A big reason for this is the brand's focus on high-ticket specialty cars while they lack a solid volume model. I think an SUV is the right move for McLaren, but I'm worried they are going about it wrong. McLaren has said that the price will be higher to maintain exclusivity, but that's not what the brand needs right now. Keep in mind, exclusivity here is a relative term, and I don't think McLaren is currently viewed as being more exclusive than, say, Lamborghini or Aston Martin, and pricing a model around Aston Martins and Lamborghinis certainly wouldn't lower the value of McLaren or make it seem as though it's not as desirable a brand. McLaren is in a very similar position to Aston Martin, especially where Aston Martin was a few years ago before the release of the DBX. Both of these brands have been struggling for a few years now, and they are not part of a larger conglomerate that can help them out. Aston Martin knew it had to put out the DBX at a price that is competitive with the Urus and Bentayga and just get some sales. In addition to this, the DBX is more luxurious than the Urus, and it's faster than the Bentayga, so it sort of hits this sweet spot in the market. It makes no sense why a McLaren SUV should cost as much as the ultra-luxurious Cullinan when McLarens have never been particularly nice inside, and I doubt that McLaren is going to get luxury right on its first attempt, if that's what it's going for. This SUV also cannot compete with the Purosangue, which is a very futuristic car, and it also has some ultra-luxury features like the massaging seats and a very nice interior for a Ferrari, while also coming with a massive V12. I think the best thing for McLaren right now is just to sell more cars, and that could be done with a roughly $200,000 super SUV. So there's everything we know so far about the all-new upcoming McLaren SUV. Let me know what you think about this new model in the comments below. On this channel, I talk about car news like this, as well as history and culture. For more videos like this one, check out the rest of the channel and subscribe so you don't miss future uploads. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.